Hey everyone, welcome back to Gen X Marks the Spot. It's been a while since I touched on 𝗟𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗏, but something came to my attention that broke about the 12th of this month, so October 12th, about 8 days ago, and that is that Colby Ryan called his mother, Lori Vallow, in prison and recorded the call and asked her some pretty poignant questions. So I thought I owed it to even though I'm trying to kind of relieve some of the anxiety and stuff that cases like this bring when you cover them, I wanted to go ahead and cover and react to this interview. I have not listened to it yet. I thought I would just run through it with you on the reel. So I know I've been gone for a while. I didn't upload for a week, but I guarantee you I've been busy. I have at least 4 videos, most of them collaborations with other great creators that are in the can. I am working on editing them, and they will be uploaded over the next couple of weeks. So I have been very busy, even though I have not uploaded. So I just wanted everybody to know that I'm still with you. I also changed the backdrop, all horror movie stuff. The tree is also horror movie based. So I got out of my laziness and I did what I was supposed to do. So I appreciate everyone. Somebody in the family had surgery, so it's been. We also lost an elderly fur baby, so it's been quite a month. It's been very stressful. September was not a good month, so finally getting back into it in October. So that being said, let's listen to what Colby has to say to his mother.
I've definitely found my strength, so I think that's where I'm at right now. But
well, yeah. I know you've got to be busy with kids and everything, so that your life moves fast when you have little kids and you're doing your life. So, I didn't want any of this for you, as you know.
Yeah.
You told me that Tylee had come to you in a dream.
Right.
And you never told me what she said or what her message was to you.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what I always wanted to ask you privately, right? Like me and you, what did she say?
I don't remember. If I'm being honest with you, I don't really know if I believe in the visiting of ancestors anymore. I don't really, like, people who are in your family. I don't think that's something that I've ever seen biblically where, like, you really get visitors from your family on behalf of Christ. I've dreamed a lot of things, if that's what you're asking. I've dreamed a lot of things about you, and I've dreamed a lot of things about my family, but I've never fully dreamed. I can't remember exactly what you're referring to, if that's what you're asking me.
Okay, yeah, but you called me, and so you knew something wasn't right, and you were questioning me, and you were asking, but this is before you knew anything, and you had a dream with Tylee. I'm not saying she actually visited you, but you had some kind of dream that had upset you, and I wondered, because she had passed away, if she had actually visited you and told you something, because she visited me and told me plenty of things, and the very first thing she told me was, "I'm sorry, Mom, for being such a brat." That's the first thing that she told me.
Oh my gosh. The cognitive dissonance with this woman taking a dream that we would have of a departed ancestor or departed family member, whether you believe in that they can talk to you beyond the grave, whether you believe in that or not, if you're really close to somebody that passes away, chances are you're going to dream about them and probably have conversations within your dream with them, whether those are imaginary or real, I'm not going to venture to say. But the fact that she is so curious about this dream that Colby had, and you can see his reaction here, in the meantime, dropping on him that, oh, I've dreamed about Tylee, or Tylee's visited me, and she said she was sorry for being a brat. Does that excuse you from murdering her or having her murdered? Good Lord, woman, you are beyond. You are just beyond deluded and evil, woman.
And it was so Tylee, and it was so her. So I just wondered if she had said something to you that you recalled. And that was such a long time ago. I just always have wondered, because I never asked you at the time, you know, what your dream was. You just had told me that you had had a dream and that she had come to you. So I wondered.
Yeah, I don't really remember, to be honest with you.
Okay. I just didn't know if that was something that... And I totally appreciate what you believe or don't believe or whatever. You know what I believe, so it's not a big secret.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what you know from when you knew me, not what you know from what police have told you or other people have told you, but what you actually know from me personally, which that's the only other thing I wanted to ask.
Lori, can we get past this I'm innocent? You're not. You had your children killed. You've admitted to that, and now you're claiming that they wanted to be killed or they were in pain and they wanted to be killed to justify it. Everybody knows you're guilty. Let's get past this, that I'm really innocent and the police are oh so bad and telling people oh so bad things about me. Can we just drop that facade? And can you be real with your son and be real with the people that have followed this case and just, you didn't have to kill those children. Kay and Larry would have taken them in. Lots of relatives would have taken them in, but no. You wanted the money, and you wanted to be able to continue to get the money, and you wanted to be with Chad, and that's what dictated your choice not to let them go, but to kill them and deceive people into believing they were still alive so you could still collect Social Security money. Let's just be honest.
Ask you about, because you remember our drive to Reno, just me and you, right?
Mm-hmm. And I remember you telling me some really out there stuff. You just told me that there's multiple lives, and I told you that's not true, and I really don't believe in that at all. I don't think anybody's ever lived multiple probations. I don't think anybody's ever come back besides Jesus himself. I don't think that's not something that we do. That's reincarnation. That's not something that Jesus ever mentioned in the Bible, ever. There's nobody who comes back and lives in flesh and is born again and has a whole nother different life and experience. So I truly knew when you told me that didn't make any sense to me, and it didn't sit right with my spirit. But I trusted you as my mom. I tried to give you the room to share with what you thought and felt. But as years went by, I had to do my own research on the things. And I remember thinking, when you did that and said that, I remember thinking, that's just not right in my spirit. And everybody's entitled to believe what they want. But I'm telling you, for me personally, that in no way, shape, or form do I believe that anybody's ever lived a different life. I think once you're gone, you go to heaven or wherever the Lord puts you. And that is my true conviction to myself. I don't believe in anything else.
Well, I honor and respect that. And just like you said, I honor and respect what everyone else believes. They can believe whatever they want to believe, right? Like,
but don't you think that's dangerous to believe anything and just kind of have your own basis of belief rather than something that's based in truth and what the Bible says?
So I agree with you 100%. And there's a purpose for what the Bible does, and there's a purpose for what it says. And
so, Lori, what was the purpose of murdering 2 children and Tammy Daybell? What was that purpose? Do you really think that God would have had the murder of the children, who were, and especially JJ, an innocent, to forward some plan where you guys were gods and goddesses? It just, you're so full of it. I don't believe, if you have read the Bible, I don't believe you've ever absorbed one single little bit of scripture from it. You just haven't absorbed it, because it doesn't say that anywhere.
And it says all the right things. And most people who ever come to this earth only come one time. And that's why the Bible is for everyone. It's not, this is higher knowledge that people who need to know it can know it, and people that don't need to know it don't need to know it. So it's not widespread. It comes directly from Jesus.
And the Bible actually says, woe be to he who adds to this book, and woe be to thee that takes away from this book. What you're doing is adding to this book. You're proclaiming that there is more knowledge than what God gave us in the Bible. That to me is like the highest form of blasphemy and sedition that ever. You're warped. You're warped.
To me, it doesn't come from any other source. It comes from Jesus Christ to me, and so that
I feel like, honestly, that there's a lot to talk about here. Can you go over, you said 𝗙𝗍's been visiting you, so I want to, there's a lot of things I want to go through, but you said 𝗙𝗍 visited you and spoke to you. And JJ, I heard this in your statement that you made. I wanted to know, what you mean by that, and one of the reasons I wanted to talk. I think when we talked about Legion, let's go back to what we were talking about. So, in the Bible, there's that moment. I think it's in John 5 where Jesus casts out the demons, and he gets rid of them, and then the man is back to normal. You said that there was a reference to the chosen, and I wanted to hear what you said because it cut out. So what do you believe in when it comes to the zombie idea? Because that's where you were at. That's what you were telling me.
Well, yes, I would love to address this because I have never said the word my personal. This has gone out of control. India, whoever made up this whole zombie thing, and escalated what my basic belief was. Okay? I, Lori, have gone through my whole entire discovery, and there's not one thing. Do you know if you do a search and you do the word zombie in a search for in my discovery, do you know the only thing that comes up is when JJ was ordering those little zombie babies from Minecraft. That's the only thing that comes up. Okay. In all of my 19 years of my iCloud. I was not saying that. That is not something I said. That is not something that... So yes, can evil spirits possess humans like it did in John 5? Yes, I believe that. Do I believe I have the power from to cast them out? Yeah, I do. The same way he cast them out in episode 5 of season 2 of The Chosen.
Okay.
So yes, those are my
Okay, maybe you didn't use the word zombie, but you used the word dark over and over, and you said they were no longer there. Once the spirit had taken complete control, they were no longer there, and they were no longer themselves, hence the zombie. So we're just arguing over vocabulary here. And again, she definitely still has delusions of grandeur, believing that she can cast out demons the same way that Jesus could. Definitely still riding high on whatever crap she rides high on.
You there?
Sorry, the Wi-Fi here is so terrible. It just keeps cutting out.
It's alright. Yeah, we can just go through it. So you were saying that you never said the word zombie. That was never used by you.
Ever.
Okay. So, I have a lot to ask you, honestly. But I wanted to give you the floor to really say your piece. And since we're cutting out so much, maybe it's just a good time. You told me one day you'd want to say it in our last phone call. You said that you wanted to tell me what has happened. So I'm going to just give you the floor real quick. If you want to say your piece, and maybe I'll just have follow-up questions after that. But I want to go ahead, and I think you know what I'm referring to is what really happened then with my brother and my sister and this whole thing. And I know that we could talk about my dad, but I'm assuming that that's because of your case is a little not for right now. We can always follow up on that at some point because I do have a lot of questions about it all, but I'm going to try to just keep.
I'm assuming he's talking about Charles when he says his dad. I can only assume because as far as I know, there's nothing pending about Ryan, or actually I think Colby's father was actually the husband before that, but even before Ryan. So I would assume he's talking about Charles. And yes, he's asking her what everybody wants to know. What's the real scoop? What's the real story about what happened to 𝗙𝗍𝗃 and JJ?
Keep this strictly to my brother and my sister. So I just want to give you the floor real quick, and I think we'll just kind of go from there.
Well, it's obviously different than what everyone else thinks, and I don't know that if you knew the truth of what really actually happened, if you would want it to be in a public forum, Colby.
Okay.
I mean, I talk to you personally. I know that you are the only person on this planet, to me, who loved 𝗙𝗍 and JJ as much as I do. The only person. So in all of my 4 years or 5 years of going through this, because, you know, it's been 5 years now,
Yeah.
I have asked everyone.
How dare you say that Larry and Kay did not love their grandchildren? How can you say that the other members of your family, your mother, who is now passed on, didn't love those children, that your sister did not love those children? You're just, ugh. This woman is just, I hate to use the word irredeemable, but I'm coming pretty close to it with her.
One of my attorneys, how can you help me to talk to Colby in a way that I can let him know the truth of what happened, because he's the only person on this planet, not my mom, not my sister, not anybody else. Colby is the only person on this planet who loved JJ and 𝗙𝗍 like I did. He was the only person that truly cared. And in my opinion, he is the only person who deserves to know what really happened. So can you help me find a way where I...
Can you shut up with the dramatics? Quit playing the victim, Lori. That's all you're doing in this, is playing the victim. I don't want to hear it. Colby obviously doesn't want to hear it. No one else wants to hear it. Just tell the truth. For once in your wretched existence, tell the truth.
I can talk to Colby privately and tell him, because this is a horrible situation and I want to be able to talk to you, but I don't know that after you know what actually happened, if you would want that to be public.
Okay. Well, basically, you said no one was murdered. That was your biggest statement. You said not one single person was murdered. That everybody, you said there were suicides and deaths, accidental deaths, and you said that there was drug overdoses. That no one was murdered. So that's what I'm going to ask you then. If you were willing to say it in your statement, then I'm asking you to say it to me. If you don't want to go into detail, that's your decision. But that's what I'm asking you today.
Well, what I can tell you is that I wrote out what happened with those 38 pages, and that's what I was telling my attorneys. I need this to get to Colby. I don't care who else it has to go through, but I don't think it's fair to Colby to not have this information, since he is the only person I feel like was as close to, that cared about JJ and 𝗙𝗍 like I did. Now, you are the only person, Colby, in the entire world that I felt like I said, I want to talk to Colby and tell him, because he deserves to know.
You're talking to Colby. Tell him. All you're doing is You're dramatics, Lori. It's all cheap dime store dramatics. That's all you're doing right now. Just tell him. Just tell him the truth.
I don't care what anybody else knows, and I frankly don't care what anybody else thinks. It's not their children. They're my children, and they're your brother and sister, and we were the family, and we were the ones doing everything for them. And when you took care of JJ, when 𝗙𝗍 was in the hospital that time before we had to move to Hawaii, and you sat there with him as a 2-year-old before medication, before we knew he had autism, and he would just run like 100 miles an hour. And I remember Because when you picked us up at the airport, picked us up, and you were so mad at me when you picked me up with JJ, and you're like, what are you doing? And you're too old to be, you're a grandma age, and you're too old to have this baby, and what are you doing? And it's going to have so many problems, and you were really mad. And JJ came with his own love, and you fell in love with JJ. You, Colby, did. And when you had to take care of him during that time, I think that bond.
Do you get the feeling, like I do, that she's trying to torture Colby for some sadistic reason, that she's just trying to torture him? That she's angry at him? That he didn't, like, blindly support her like, Daybell's children did him? Is she that blindly angry with him that she's just trying to torture him by reliving all of this instead of just telling him the truth and answering his questions? God, she's like a politician with her word salad. Good God.
I wanted you the most to him when you took care of him, and Tylee and I were in the hospital, and Charles was in Hawaii trying to set up the house, and we were trying to move out of that huge 5,000 square foot house, and we were just throwing everything in the dumpster because we couldn't move it. We didn't have time because we didn't expect Tylee to be with pancreatitis in the hospital, and I was in there with her screaming, and so you are the only person that deserves to know the truth. Also, I can't tell the story of what happened to Tylee and JJ without telling Tylee's life. And I don't necessarily want to tell that to the public, but you know it. You are the only person who lived it with me and her. You lived it with me. You went with me and her to therapy every week. You were the ones there where she was crying and screaming and throwing things in walls because they were forcing her to go to jail. You saw all of her moods. You knew how she had depression and anxiety attacks. And you and 𝗟̱cy were even coming over to mentor her during that time. You know, because you were there, and you were there with JJ.
That doesn't excuse the fact that you marked those children as dark. You also marked Colby's wife, 𝗟̱cy, as dark. In an email between you and Chad, that marked his wife as dark. And what happened to people after they were marked as dark? They ended up dead. So you cannot sit here and blame what happened on a mercy killing, which is, it sounds like what you're going to. I'm having like flashbacks of, Gabby Petito when Brian Laundrie said it was a mercy killing. I'm having flashbacks of that's what you're saying, that they were put out of their misery, that they wanted to die. But no, you marked them as dark. You marked them as dark. This had everything to do with your vile machinations, not mercy. You can't tell me those children wanted to die. I don't believe that. I have depression and anxiety too. And in my worst of the worst, I wanted to live. I can't imagine that Tylee was ever at that point. Because Tylee was stubborn. If Tylee had wanted to do it, she would have done it. She didn't need your help. She didn't need Daybell's help. She didn't need to be burned and buried on Daybell's pieces of property. Just complete and utter fabrication of a deluded mind.
You were there with Tylee, and and I didn't want to write it out like that. I didn't want to just say, oh, this is what happened. I wanted to talk to you and answer your questions so I can tell you everything that actually happened. And if you have a question of something, well, the police said this, then I have an answer for that. That is not what, they weren't there and they don't know. So I wanted to talk to you so I could hear your questions and answer your questions, because you are the only person besides me on this whole earth who really loved both of them the way that I did. And so you heard what happened if you heard that, what I wrote.
They wouldn't give me the detail, really. So that's why I'm asking, because that's what...
Yeah, I'm happy. I would be happy to tell you personally and privately, because I don't know if you want those details out in the public.
Well, you pretty much said it in the trial. So I guess I'm wondering why you said those things if you weren't willing to just share, if that's the truth. If that's the truth that you say it is.
Well, it is the truth, and it's exactly what happened. But
do you want me to say what I've seen? personally.
Sure.
So it's going to be heavy. So I hope you're ready for this. They found my little brother in a bag, tied up, buried, and then they found remnants of my sister. Remnants, not even a person anymore. Remnants of her.
Can you imagine why?
Sorry. I can't imagine what Colby's going through right now. If you're a religious person out there and believe in prayer, please join me in praying for Colby. I admire him for wanting to put this out there. I mean, okay, say what you want to about him, making a career, making profit, but good God, how many people have made it a career of following this case, myself included, that have gotten some sort of monetary gain off of it. If anybody in the world deserves to have what he needs to make a life for his family, it's Colby. So let's send all the positive vibes we can toward him.
That is, do you have any reason to think that would happen?
No.
So, did you know 𝗙𝗍's desire of wanting to be cremated?
That was your version of cremating her? That was the
It wasn't
version?
mine.
Because that doesn't sound...
It wasn't mine. But did you know that she had that desire?
No.
Well, so you don't know because you weren't there, but after Charles passed away, and Alex and I and 𝗙𝗍 were at our table in there at the house in Chandler, and we were going over Charles' wishes, and Charles had put all his stuff down saying he wanted to be cremated, and don't ever put me in a box or I'll come back and haunt you, because he was claustrophobic. He didn't like the idea of being in a box, and he had said all these funny things on his letter to me. And 𝗙𝗍 said to me and Alex at the time, she said, don't you put me in a box either. She's like, whenever I'm out of here, I want to be cremated. That was her big thing.
Again, 𝗙𝗍 was 18, 19 years old. Way too young to be thinking about the afterlife or what was going to be done with her earthly remains. This woman is just delusional. She won't answer the question. She's grasping at straws to justify what she did and what she allowed to happen. And it's just absolutely infuriating.
So why wasn't she cremated then? Why didn't you cremate her? If she wasn't murdered, why was she picked?
But she wasn't.
Okay, according to what you say, and you say you were there, I'm trying to give you the space without telling you what I think and feel. I'm trying to ask you the question because that's not cremation. I have my brother and sister's ashes. That's cremation. I have them.
Can you imagine coming in on that scene? Can you imagine as a mother, you're a father now, so imagine you come in and find two of your children deceased.
So they just died out of nowhere.
I didn't say that.
You come home, or whatever, and both your kids are dead. And then what? You just never tell me what happened? Or you never tell anybody anything? I'm trying to understand you.
You can't, because you can't imagine what that is like. You can't even imagine, you know how much I love those kids. You know how much I've put into them. You know how much I've done everything to protect them. You know how much I've done everything to get 𝗙𝗍 every kind of help spot in every kind of court.
If either of them died from natural causes, no rational, caring, empathetic person, especially a mother, would cut up their daughter and burn them and bury the remains in such a way, and they certainly wouldn't just wrap their child in a plastic bag and bury them. You would call the authorities. If something legitimate happened to them, you would call the authorities. What you're saying makes no sense.
To keep her safe, fought in every kind of hospital so they wouldn't do a whole bunch of horrible stuff to her when she was sick all the time. You know what I did for them.
I know.
So you imagine walking in, finding them, and they had been gone for hours. There was nothing I can do, even though you just can't imagine. You can't imagine that scenario, because until you live it, you can't imagine that scenario. And when I came in, and I knew 𝗙𝗿 had been upset, and I knew that she was upset with me that weekend because she wouldn't stay at the house because I would not give stay there, and she hates Melanie Gibb, as you know. Everyone knows this. She hated her. And she couldn't stand her smell because she had the essential oils, and 𝗙𝗍 got sick off the essential oils in 6th grade because her teacher made her drink the essential oils in 6th grade to help with pancreatitis, if you remember all that.
No words. No words.
So she didn't want to stay there. So I asked her to babysit JJ, put him to bed that night, which is what she always has done, right? She was going to sit in bed. I was going to do my podcast with stupid Melanie and Dave, right? So JJ wouldn't interrupt it. And then I was picking him up in the morning to get him ready and take him to school. And when I came in on that scene and they were gone, I thought 𝗙𝗍 did it to get back at me. I thought it was all my fault. I thought she was mad at me, and that's what had happened. And the reason why she visited me and why JJ visited me and came to me right after that is because to tell me that it was.
Are you saying 𝗙𝗍 killed her little brother and then killed herself? Is that what you're actually sitting up here and saying? You piece of garbage. Oh my God.
My fault, because I was blaming myself 100%. 100%. Why didn't I get 𝗙𝗍 more help? Why did I let her get off of her meds? Why did I not do something different? Why did I let Melanie get to stay here? Why did I do any of these things that would lead to this? How could it possibly have happened? Why and how? Why and how? I mean, you can't even imagine what that is like. No one on the earth can imagine what that's like.
You're telling me that 𝗙𝗍 took JJ's life and then took her own life?
On accident.
And took her own life then? After? So who chopped and burned her? And who duct taped JJ and put him in the ground? What I'm asking you. You were saying what? So you told me.
Sorry, you're just cutting out. I can't hear what your question is.
So
convenient.
You're telling me 𝗙𝗍 took JJ's life, then took her own life, and then someone cremated her by dismembering her and burning her and throwing her in a pet cemetery, and then somebody bound JJ, put him in a trash bag, and threw him in the backyard. And that was it. That was the end of it.
What I'm saying is I wasn't aware what happened to them after I left that scene.
Okay, so you gave it.
So you just gave carte blanche to your brother and Chad Daybell to dispose of your children that were the victim of a suicide a murder-suicide. Okay. I can't, y'all. I can't do any more of this right now. I will come back and do a part 2 to this. But right now, I need to back off. I'm getting really emotional. Colby, thank you. Thank you for doing this. Thank you so much for for attempting to get answers and sharing it with the public, because you do not have to do that. You could have just had this phone call in private. So thank you. Yeah, y'all, I'll be back with another reaction. I think the delusion speaks for itself. This woman is evil, and she's not going to take responsibility for anything that she did. I think it's obvious that if you had walked into that scene, you would have called the police at that point. Not threw your children out like they were trash. But anyway, y'all, I'll be back soon with another video. And until then, thank you so much. And Gen X out.